Welcome to The Record Show, your virtual spin around the vinyl industry. Brought to you by Radio Wasteland Records. Yes, Midland has a record store. Here's your host, Jim Gleason.
Well, greetings from the Wasteland and welcome to another edition of The Record Show. Well, if you haven't heard by now, the price of vinyl is going up. That's kind of a given the state of the world today. Gas here in the mid-Michigan area is hovering around the $4.50 a gallon range. The price of milk is up, the price of eggs is up, the price of pretty much everything is going up. So why would vinyl be excluded from that? Well, the source behind this current batch of vinyl price increases in the news was a list released by the Universal Music Group last week indicating price increases for thousands of their titles. And by thousands of titles, I mean thousands of titles. Here's the list. As you can see, it just goes and goes and goes. And this list outlines the MSRP, the manufacturer's suggested resale price, for all of these titles. It lists their old one and gives us what that is now suggested to be. Now, some of the price increases that stand out the most are on some of UMG's biggest titles, their bigger sellers, if you will, including the Abbey Road anniversary release from the Beatles, which has gone from a suggested price of $25.98 to $34.99, nearly a $10 increase in just this one fell swoop. Same can be said also for Nirvana's Nevermind, which is going up nearly $9 from $25.98 suggested to $34.99. Now, not all of the releases are jumping by that large of an amount. Take this one from an artist named Masego and the album Ladylike, suggested retail price going from $21.98 to $22.98, so an increase of just a single dollar. Now, there are lots of other vinyl community and record store videos floating around on YouTube out there talking about this price increase. And again, the general consensus is this is being blamed on inflation, i.e. the price of everything going up nowadays. Now, the record labels have been going through some problems, as we've talked about plenty of times before. They're having supply chain issues, again, like much of the country is, getting the raw materials. But the price of those raw materials are going up as well as the cost of delivery. It takes gasoline to deliver these things around the country. And as I mentioned, there are lots of other videos about this issue, so I don't want to rehash things that we've heard time and time again. But there are a couple of things that I do want to bring up that I find a little bit odd. If this truly is all about inflationary costs and the price of everything going up, then why aren't UMG price increases a little more uniform across the board? As we've talked about, big sellers like the Beatles and Nirvana going up nearly $10 a copy. But buried within this list, we also find a release from 50 Cent, the album Get Rich or Die Tryin', going up by 1 penny from $38.98 to $38.99. So it's a little hard for me to believe that this is solely the fault of inflation when you've got such discrepancies going on between what maybe is not a big enough seller to what are traditionally good sellers. And I know for a fact here in our store, Abbey Road and Nirvana are two of the biggest. We could sell a copy of those a week if they are available. Whenever we put them out, they tend to go. So Universal, yes, I understand the prices are going up. They're going up everywhere. We're feeling them everywhere. But if it's really, truly about inflation, you'd think that some of these increases, most of these increases rather, would be a little more uniform in their amount of jump. But it is what it is, as we've said before. So where does this take us? I am of the firm belief that now that these prices have gone up, they're not going to come back down. Partially, it is the demand that is driving this. Yes, there are supply chain issues. Yes, there's cost of materials going up everywhere issues. But so is the demand for vinyl. And that's why the pressing plants have been having so many troubles keeping up with that demand. So if they're going to begin funding this demand, then the prices have to go up. I also heard one other YouTuber say that partially this is the fault of all of us as record collectors. It's really kind of a too much of a good thing scenario happening where, well, corporations got to corporate, and that means they got to make some money. And this is where they're going to be making it. Now, will the other big labels follow suit? I bet they will, and it probably won't take too much longer. Maybe Universal just got this out there as an icebreaker, but we'll have to see where the prices take us. But it's not going to be pleasant in the interim. Now, I don't think that these prices are ever going to come back down, by the way. Once we get used to paying $34, $35 for a single LP repress of Nirvana, I don't see it going back down to that $25 range or even less. Now, one of the other tougher parts of this is that a lot of consumers will end up blaming the retailers for this price increase. From our standpoint, there's not a lot we can do. Here at our store, we're a smaller one, so that means that we have to buy indirectly from the labels. We have a distributor or two distributors that we go through to get copies of our vinyl. And when the label increases prices for the distributors increase their prices to our stores. The margin for us on these copies of new vinyl is really going to stay about the same. We're paying more for them, everybody's paying more for them, and ultimately the consumer is as well. Now, one other note on this. This is coming at a time when a lot of new people, younger people, are discovering vinyl as a preferred medium of listening. And a price increase this great, especially on titles that everybody knows and everybody wants, could ultimately be the force that drives people away from getting into this. Or if they're just getting into it, they may just stop cold and say, I've got the ones I want, let's go back to streaming. And that ultimately, I think, is going to hurt the industry at a time when it could be growing. Where is all this going to take us? Who knows? We're going to do what we can here at our store, and I bet a lot of other independent stores are going to do the same to keep prices as low as they can possibly keep them so that the folks keep coming back in. But when faced with the size of the increase, like the ones announced by UMG last week, that gives us a little cause for concern. So we'll just have to hold on and see where things take us, just like pretty much everything else going on in the world right now. And finally today, we've had kind of a unique record show up here in the store. In the past, we've done a segment here in the Record Show dealing with the differences between promotional releases, things like gold promo stamps versus promotional pressings or white label promos. If you get a chance, go back and check that out. In fact, we'll put a link to that segment in the description below. But a gold promo stamp, if you're unfamiliar, is something that it shows up on records when the record label sends it out for promotional purposes, whether it be to record stores, to radio DJs, or any other use that promotes the sale of this album. Not much of a difference, as we'd said before, in regular pressings, other than the fact that it's just a gold promo stamp on the back. Well, this Dylan record that showed up the other day, Nashville Skyline, had a gold stamp on it that I had never seen before. This one says, for military sale only. Now, I'm sure that these exist, and again, it's probably very self-explanatory. These are for sale on military bases. But again, something fairly unique that I had not seen. According to the Steve Hoffman forums, I found some info on this, Columbia Records had a contract with the U.S. Department of Defense to supply them with recordings at lower than normal wholesale costs. And so to prevent any hoarding or dumping into the civilian retail market, they marked the jackets of those records with this disclaimer. So a unique find, and again, this does not change the fact that this is just a normal Columbia pressing. This one in particular, though, a reissue of Bob Dylan's Nashville Skyline. But for those looking for unique things, be on the lookout for military sale only stamps on the back of some.
You spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record, baby, round, 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 round. You spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record, baby, round, 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 round.
Thanks for watching The Record Show. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe to the Radio Wasteland Records YouTube channel. And be sure to hit that notifications bell so you'll be alerted every time we upload new content.